What's up, guys? This is True Ninja. We're going to be talking about putting DIN connectors on your battery and on your gun. As you can tell, I've already cut the wires. I've already put the heat shrink on the wires as well. And I've already got it set up for that. First thing you want to do when you do this, I'm only going to do one side so you have a video of it. I'm not going to do the other one because, it's just a longer video. But if you look, one side of this has a red, and one side has a black, which is your negative and positive, obviously. Now, when you hook these up before you cut anything, hook these up and mark what wire is what. So when you cut, for example, and you don't have any wires that are marked, you have something marked. I put a heat shrink on that to mark that as black so I know that this is red. So if you have a marker, you can do red on red, and you can do it with a marker if you'd like. Another thing you got to make sure is you put the female end on the battery. So as you can tell, the female end's on the battery. And as you can tell, the red end is the positive and the black end is the negative. And then the black end would be horizontal and the red end is vertically. If you look at the charger, that's an easy way to tell the way it hooks up. So if you get a smart charger with the adapter, you'll be able to tell which is which. Before you cut everything, make sure you check it twice. Make sure you mark everything. Because if you forget, which it's okay if you forget, because like as far as this goes, if you get this on right, all you have to do is hook this up to this and then hold the wires on the prongs. And you can have a friend help you and make sure to load your gun and shoot it. Make sure you get the right one on there. Once you figure out the right ones, which wires which, make sure you mark them. That's a way to do it if you forgot to mark them. So now that we've got that out of the way, I am going to show you a little bit of a video of me soldering, I guess. So we've got the soldering gun, which I forgot to plug in, of course. So it's going to take a minute to heat up. That's okay. It won't take too long. Usually doesn't take that long to heat up at all. Alright. So while it's heating up, I'm going to show you something. This thing is very cheap. It's really good for soldering. You get your piece in here. Make sure that when you're soldering, you solder the right wire to the right thing. Like I said, make sure to check. For example, you see that the flat end is the black end. So you want to take the black end and put it on the black end. And the red end on the red end. Either way, if you need, you can always refer to the charger cord. It will show you which one's which, pretty much, if you look at it before you cut everything. So just can't emphasize that enough to mark it. Try to cut the power cords short so that a lot isn't sticking out, so it makes it easier to solder on. You don't want it really, really long. And try to flatten it out if you can, a little bit on the edge. So when you put it on there, that it solders real easy and it's not a pain in the butt. So now that we got all that going here, like I said, you would snip the ends off before you would do it. So what we're going to do here, we're going to take the soldering iron. We're going to solder the black to flat end here. And I'm going to go ahead and set that up so we get that good and ready. Easy way to do this is to melt a little bit on the wire. If you can, try not to touch the plastic, because if you touch the plastic, and I can't emphasize this enough, if you touch the plastic, it will melt. Like I said, sometimes these don't like to stay on, and that can be a real nuisance. And if it gets really hot, make sure you stop, because the wires don't need to be hot. You don't want them too hot. Instead, if it gets too hot, you could damage some components or over energize some stuff and short out some chips and stuff, depending on the gun. But yeah, so if I can get this to stay and cooperate with me here. Sometimes if you lift up your wire, sometimes it's easier to take and put the solder underneath, because sometimes they don't like to stick. So if I can get this to stay here. Come on. This is sometimes they will be a real pain. Alright, this one's going to be a pain in the ass. So we're going to go ahead and take some flex, since it's being stupid on me. You don't need flex. It's just nice to have. Oh shit. If I can hold on to it. I'll put a little flex on that wire here. Get it to stick a little bit. Sometimes you gotta resort to what you got. I'm gonna use a bigger wire too. Again. Let's see if we can get this thing to stay this time. Okay. Make sure you're doing this in a room that's not gonna set off the fire alarm. Yeah. This thing is just being a real pain in my ass. So as you can tell, it can be a pain sometimes. A real pain. So, since it's being a pain, I'm going to have to do a little trick. And I hate doing this, but you got to do what you got to do. Since this does not want to stick, I'm going to go ahead and take this one off. And this is something you can do. I don't particularly like doing this, but if you have extra wire, you can go ahead and solder it on without that. Get the wire going here. Strip the wire. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes it's just something you gotta do, because it just does not want to stick to it sometimes. Like I said, if you have a soldering gun, it's better to use a soldering gun versus an iron, because the irons are a lot harder to solder with. You will definitely learn that if you have an iron. So we're gonna go ahead and cut this short and cut this a little longer. Let's see. Come on, just long enough to where you can actually get something going here. Come on. There we go. Got it. It could be a pain sometimes. Oh, come on. Come on. There we go. Stripped it. Better if you have some strippers, but I don't have any strippers, so. Oh, shit. Oh, my. That was not good. Woo. Like I said, watch for your iron. Shit like that might happen. Hit it and kind of move stuff. But like I said, if you are having trouble connecting these wires, you can twist them on and put a heat shrink over them and take and solder two separate wires to it. Just sometimes it can be a pain. I mean, it's a nuisance to have to do stuff like that, but it's sometimes unavoidable, especially if you don't have an actual soldering gun. The high irons are nice and all, but they can also be a pain. So, best way to do this is twist it on, get one on first. Once you get it on there, you can melt some solder on it. So we got solder on that one. Make sure I don't touch anything with that this time, because yeah, that was not good. It started melting my headset because I didn't have this cleared. Ooh, never is good to have that happen. Like I said, got a lot of clutter over here, so. Okay. And we got it soldered together. Since it wanted to be a pain in my keister. So now that we got that together, we can go ahead and slide these heat shrink tubing over the wiring. And we can take a lighter and we can shrink that up to a minimum. There we go. Shrink that up real good. And look at that. Easy to go. It can be a pain in the ass. Like I said, sometimes you may have to solder 2 different wires on there and do it because it doesn't like the wires. I don't know. I've never had that happen till this time I did it. I've done it like 3 times, but this is a way around it. Just solder 2 different wires to it, and there you go. So that's how you would do it. If you have a soldering iron, I'd advise using that. It's a hell of a lot easier to use the soldering, actual soldering iron instead of one of these, whatever you want to call them. Well, actually, that is a solder. I meant soldering gun. You know what I mean. Either way, like I said, it's an easy way to do it. Connect it. You have Deans. They get 3 more. People don't talk about this much, but they get 3 more rounds per second. And it has better output on power, so you might get a little extra oomph from your gun. Just so you know. And like I said, this is good to go. Plug it in. Should run just great now. Another thing when you're doing this, make sure not to cross wires, because those wires can cause issues. As you can tell, it's shooting fine. Like I said, it's easy to do. Just be careful. Like I said, it can be a pain sometimes, because like I said, you could see where I tried to solder it and it just beat it out and just fell down. Sometimes that happens, and if that keeps happening for a good amount of time like it did when I did it, you're probably better off just getting some copper wire. And that's partially why some of these kits come with copper wire, because you can solder copper wire to it instead of the wire that you're trying to solder to it. Sometimes it doesn't like the wire, and then you could splice it together and solder it together and put that on there. I didn't want to do that, but sometimes that's what you got to do. Soldering can be difficult sometimes, I guess. But yeah, it's working fine now. It's shooting fine, and yeah, and that's how you do that. I hope you liked the video. Like and subscribe. Gotta definitely give me a like and subscribe. I accidentally melted that when I wasn't paying attention. Put the solder in there. Ugh. Well, oh well. What are you gonna do? Either way, that's True Ninja out.